We kick things off with football at 4 with the latest news. Andy Dalton, 1 minute closer to being the new starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. That is not a joke. Not a joke. Bryce Young did not participate in practice today due to an ankle injury we were not made aware of, Brian, after Sunday's game or Monday's loss against New Orleans.
Yeah, and that's the thing you got to remember. Short week. I mean, they played Monday night. Now they've got to go all the way to Seattle on Sunday. He needs to play. I mean, injury aside, whatever. I mean, you want him to get as many snaps, as many reps in as many games as possible, and you certainly don't want a lingering injury. But I mean, this is a situation where he could grow. Playing on the road at Seattle, not easy. You certainly want him to do that. You don't really learn anything by Andy Dalton playing this game.
Except that Andy Dalton is either the wonderful backup quarterback veteran that you would hope that you had signed in the offseason, or he's just another long line of guys that just like, okay, well, we'll just when Bryce gets healthy, we'll drop him back in there and see what happens.
Well, it's a strange thing, right? Does Andy Dalton actually give you a better chance to win that game?
Oh, no.
You don't think so?
No, he does not. He does not give me a better chance to win that football game because he hasn't played full time in 2 games already this season. He's coming in cold. He's not prepared to be the one right now. I mean, he could be. I guess he took first team reps today with that team. But if Bryce's ankle feels better tomorrow, Andy Dalton's not going to be the first team guy. He's not going to get those snaps. And but if it bounces back and forth, either he's healthy or he isn't at this point.
I mean, if he can play, he's playing.
Absolutely.
And he's the starter, and no matter if Dalton gives you a better chance to win this specific game, you're playing Bryce Young because that's what this season's about. The season's about developing Bryce Young as best as you can.
Right. Bryce Young is, I think, the projected stats were like 3,200 yards, 3,300 yards passing this season. He's nowhere near that number. Let's be honest, everybody. He's nowhere near that number. But
that's 200 yards a game.
Right. I think, but we're working with 3s and 4s, right? Adam Thielen, DJ Chark,
And look, you mentioned it in the earlier hour, but Shaq Thompson's already hurt. J.C. Horn's already hurt. Brian Burns and Justin Houston were limited in practice today. I mean, now the defense, which was going to carry this team, allow you to win games 17-16 or 13-9. Now the defense is starting to fall apart in the sense that you got to stay healthy. I mean, that's one of the keys to these NFL seasons. Which team is the healthiest at the end usually wins. Already, we're entering week 3, and 2 of your best defensive players are already long-term injuries, and then 2 more of your best defensive players are dealing with nicks and bruises and stuff and missing practice, or at least being limited in practice.
Every NFL team goes through these cycles. They go through the cycles of injury. They go through the cycles of bumps and bruises. Just it doesn't feel like for the amount of hope and amount of just kind of, yes, this is going to be a good year for us, it's coming at the absolute wrong time for Panthers fans. Because fans, what do you do? What do you do? There was a video in the first game when the Cowboys beat the New York Giants in week 1 40-0, where there was a video of the Giants fan getting up from his seat like 10 rows back from the end zone, and him ripping off the jersey, throwing it down on the ground, and yelling, "I'm done." And there have to be, and I can only imagine, again, you're loyal or you're not loyal, whatever it is, but there's a different kind of fandom for every NFL fan base. But NFL fan bases are truly loyal and locked into their teams. For a Panthers fan to pull off that Bryce Young jersey or that Adam Thielen jersey that they just bought or that Brian Burns jersey that they're like, okay, should we have bought that because they haven't signed him to an extension yet and they're probably not going to? Should we have picked that thing up, pulled it off our shoulders, thrown it down on the ground saying, I'm done? I'm not quite at that point yet. But when push comes to shove with this team, where we've hired the friendliest coach in the world that nobody denies, that people like Frank Reich, they love him for all the right reasons. He's a legacy, Charlotte, Carolina guy, and surrounded himself with all this coaching talent. When it comes to the 53-man roster that's being put out in front of us, there are just too many bumps and bruises to overcome right now.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like overreact. I mean, it feels like we're overreacting. They're 0-2, long season. They're already 2 games behind everybody in the division. The other 3 teams are all 2-0. The other 3 teams seem like they've figured something out. Derek Carr, Not David. Poor David. Talk about young quarterback in a bad situation.
Right.
Got run out of the league. Baker Mayfield seems to be going through some kind of renaissance there in Tampa. Atlanta, even without the best quarterback, seems to have figured some stuff out. What worries me is you don't have your first-round pick. The defense is already banged up. The players that we thought were sort of these average NFL veterans that you brought in are proving to be kind of average NFL veterans that you brought in. Like, I'm looking and saying, what's going to change? Is Bryce going to get better? Hopefully. I mean, he should get better. Maybe you can start to scheme some stuff up. Maybe this all-star coaching staff, find something here or there. But, you just start to look at it and you're like, where's the magic? Like,
you have a team of complementary players right now.
Yeah.
They're all complementary guys. The superstar that you want to be the superstar is a young number 1 draft pick who has played all of 2 NFL games right now.
And undersized.
He's the guy you want stirring your drink. And right now, that drink is basically a glass of water.
Right. You can win with complementary pieces if you're Patrick Mahomes. Like, his wide receivers aren't great. His running backs aren't great. But he makes the whole thing work. And now he's got a Hall of Famer at tight end, which helps.
And a Hall of Famer playing defensive tackle as well.
And a Hall of Famer on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I mean, but that works. You can get away with average skill players when you got a superstar somewhere. I mean, look what Minnesota's done, right? Cousins is a slightly above average NFL quarterback, but he's got a superstar wide receiver that opens up everything else. All of a sudden Jordan Addison is really good and KJ Osborne is really good because Justin Jefferson draws so much attention. There's nobody on this team that can help Bryce Young that says, all right, look, I'm Stephon Diggs. I'm going to draw 2 defenders. That means your tight end's going to be running open. That means we can set up some screen game. There's nobody like that. Nobody dynamic enough on this Panthers offense to change the field for you. And that's why Bryce Young's going to have to make tough throws all year, tight windows, because none of these guys are going to be running wide open.
Now I want Miles Sanders to be that guy, but Miles Sanders was great in the Eagles scheme.
With the Eagles offensive line.
With an Eagles offensive line and a dynamic playmaker that Bryce Young can be, but the expectation right now is not meeting reality at this point.